Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. This is for the week of Sunday, March 24th, 2024. Before I start, I want to do a quick shout out to Phil. I hope you enjoy being on the Big Island with you and your ohana this week, and I hope you get some sunshine. So, moving into what's going on this week, there's quite a bit. So, we're going to be keeping our eye on our main risk indicator. The 10-year yield is going to be very important this week, especially if you're a trader. So, with the calendar, we're looking at new home sales on Monday for the numbers. We're also getting some other reports through the week. Going to be getting jobless claims on Thursday, and then also the PCE and Fed Chair Powell on Friday. So we've got a packed week. This is earnings that are coming out for this week. If you have any companies on here in particular, and I'll bring this out every morning prior to the market open as well. So I'd like to start in with a word about central banks. The sentiment on these, we're kind of in a crack up boom phase to where the market is going insanely up. And the interesting thing, everyone makes assumptions about the central bank. And I wanted to bring this up because I've heard this many times about how stupid they are, how they don't know what they're doing, or that they're looking at the wrong data and they've just been getting it wrong and they just can't figure this out, and that they don't know, which way it's supposed to be going. They never consider this was all planned and they're doing this by design. Those are all the covering that they're doing for the public because they cannot tell you directly what they're doing, or people would be very upset about this. All of the people that are in charge here do this every day. They have studied this for years. They collaborate with each other daily, globally, and they know what they want to happen from this. So they know that most people will not be happy with the results or the direction they are taking. So, given this, they're educated in the best schools and they've been doing finance for years. This is all they do. What's more likely? Do you think they're making these huge mistakes, or do you think they're doing it by design? Just want to hear from you in the comments on this. So, going into banking and economy, we've got US senators. They did reach this spending bill deal to avert the government shutdown. It's an additional $1.2 trillion. So, keeping in mind they can print their own money, they loan it out. This is what they pay you in, and then they devalue it and make what they have worth more. Okay, so just a note on that. We've got the Atlanta Fed President Bostic came out saying that they're seeing some troubling things in the economy. So now they're calling for just one rate cut in 2024. So the market hasn't fully actually priced back out the cuts because they got bullish, priced everything in. The markets, went up, and now they haven't adjusted that there's only going to be one rate cut in 2024. So we'll see what happens with this week. We've got Canadian government. They are spending as well. So their spending growing twice the pace of their GDP, their revenue. So when you outspend, what you're producing, of course, it has to come from somewhere. So they're on the same path of destruction, so to speak, for the currency. This is a currency war and a race to the bottom to devaluing. So we had Congress pass, on top of these spending bills for the government, they are spending an additional $825 billion defense spending. So they're trying to get more assistance to Ukraine and all of these other places, but it's all going to the same pot. Basically, they are printing more debt, and that is the goal. We've got the German central bank talking about a terrible forecast as far as what they are producing. And their industrial production is, of course, going to be cut because, as we've been talking about, they were built on the premise of easy, cheap energy. Now that they're going into the headwinds of this, it's not available so much. Their production has cut back, and they are the powerhouse for Western Europe. If you're new here, then if you're not, you've probably heard me speak at this before. But the German central bank now talking about this because they're going to have to push the European Central Bank also to basically be printing. So we have Citigroup and JP Morgan Chase. They're still trying to build in, that's another way that they do this, the low carbon energy, fossil fuels, environmental studies, issues that they're putting out there. This is a smoke screen. So if they really cared about the environment, they would be cutting down other areas that they're doing and not meeting several times a year in their private jets. So it's not about that, their policies. It's more about how can they restructure this so that they can basically achieve their plan. So with this, I want to put into the back end. So SWIFT. SWIFT stands for Society of Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It's their backbone payment system. And they are now announcing finally that they're moving towards tokenized future for the unified ledger. So moving on to basically the major CBDC, everything getting tokenized. They're announcing now that they've got their uh, main structure behind this, and they'll be moving to this soon. So if you take all of this together, basically what's going on is they are getting everything is pretty much prepared for the main shift that they want to do. So it's going to come either in re-evaluation, or basically what I think is just replacing all of these with the currencies, and they'll bring us a solution to the pain it's going to bring. So going into the markets, we have Google and Apple. They have issues with global regulators. They're basically facing more lawsuits regarding monopolies. So those two companies in particular, big tech, will be under pressure this week. And then along with that, we had China come out saying they are going to block the use of Intel and AMD chips in government computers and kind of spreading from there. So they are replacing their technology domestically. So warned about this when US started tightening sanctions and regulating the chips, that they would just come up with their own solution. Another side note, Newmont, which is also, I believe they own Barrick Gold, a large portion of gold mines. They are selling their Ghana gold mine, and China has been basically purchasing a lot of gold mines and precious metals globally, and then they control them through the state. So, kind of interesting here, they've been stacking gold for some time, as well as the Russian central bank for the past couple of years in record pace, just stacking gold and silver, mostly gold, and then also gaining control of more mines. Okay, if you're new here, you haven't, but if you're not, you've also heard me speak about insurance, because I think this is really something that's not being paid attention to. Now we have State Farm that has caught their attention. So they canceled out 72,000 policies in California alone. So the California Insurance Commissioner is now declaring a crisis. So the underlying story is really told here. Basically, they're going to try to regulate more. He said he wants to investigate State Farm's finances, but they're also warning that regulators can't go too far, or else they're going to risk pushing the companies out of California entirely. But interesting, here's the quote, because it's a double-edged sword here. The quote, "Insurance companies are not like utility companies," end quote. So he's telling this to the radio station. That tells you a lot about what they did with utility companies and what happens in the back ends. So he goes on to say, by law, they don't have to be here. And when we try to overregulate, we'll see what happened after the Northridge earthquake. When legislature came in and tried to overregulate, they no longer write earthquake insurance in California. So now they have no other options, because the insurance companies are still private companies, and this is kind of an effect of open market, as it should be. So moving on, this is completely outside of the markets, but we have a senator that was trying to propose an amendment that would stop the current administration using taxpayer dollars to charter flights. He's talking about private flights on the big, large airlines for illegal aliens directly from the country. They're flying directly to the center of the United States. And I've taken a lot of flack for talking about that because they're talking about there's no evidence. Well, right here, he's putting in a bill to stop it because they've already been spending quite a bit and it's come out of the budget. They're also subsidizing companies that hire illegal immigrants, even though they're laying off American workers because they're lower cost labor. So these companies are basically doing this, so they're also getting subsidies from your tax dollars. And then this last one, I've got a lava update, but I'm actually not going to talk about this very much other than it was interesting. They're talking about research that could end up basically like GMOs were before in your lettuce and tomatoes specifically. So I thought that was interesting. I'll talk about that more either in the Discord. We're talking about setting up a live chat perhaps once a week and also on Twitter or X if you're there. So thank you kindly for staying. If you did like this, please hit the like button. Until I see you again, my friends, stay free.